Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the latest in my series of videos about how to pass an advanced bike test. And in this video we are going to look at observations and planning. So I could do two separate videos about observations and planning, but they're so intrinsically linked with each other, I think there's definitely value in doing a single video that covers both aspects. So if you watched the last video, which was about the system of bike control, the system of motorcycle control, you'll know that in advanced motorcycling we work to a system. We have 5 phases that we consider on the approach to a hazard, and we consider them in a very specific order. But the first phase, information, overlaps all the other phases of the system, because we are constantly taking, using and giving information all the time, not just for each particular hazard, but all the time when we're riding the bike. And our primary method of taking information in is through our eyes, looking down the road. So in this video I'm going to look at how we should be looking down the road. I'm going to talk about scanning, which is a particular technique. Helps you take in as much information as you possibly can by looking down the road in a particular way, and not forgetting what's happening behind as well. What's happening behind is absolutely essential on the bike. But remember, it's not just about taking that information in. Information is utterly useless unless we use it in the correct way. So that second aspect of the 3 things we do with information: take, use and give. Using means we take that information and we use it to formulate a plan, to make a plan as to what we're going to do. And those plans don't have to be complicated, but they need to be clear, and they need to be formed well in advance of you arriving at the situation you're going to deal with. So what I'm also going to talk about is how do we take that information, how do we take the stuff that we've taken in and use it to make a good clear plan as to how we're going to deal with the hazard. And not just one plan as well, sometimes we'll have a secondary plan just in case the first one doesn't come off. So let's start with observations. Let's start with how do we look down the road. Now you might speak to other people who've done an advanced riding or driving course and they'll say, God, they have you looking a long way in the distance. Yeah, we do, for a very specific reason. But let's be clear, I'm coming along this road now, heading towards Pooley Bridge. Look at the snow-capped mountains of the Lake District in the distance there. Yeah, it's nice to glance up and see that, but that's not relevant to me. I'm not looking that far ahead. What I am doing is looking round this couple of bends, thinking about the cyclists coming towards me in the distance there and whether anybody else is going to want to overtake them. And somebody is out on the overtake now. Thinking about the sign there warning me of pedestrians crossing. Looking for cross views, looking for an extended view. So I am looking in the far distance. But if I just looked in the far distance all the time, I'd leave myself a bit short, wouldn't I? I might be looking at the bend going round to the right, but if I'm only looking at that, I'm not scanning into the farmyard on the right, or thinking about the junction on the right as I come up to this left-hander. I could be looking all the way through there to the road over there, but I could be ignoring this junction on the right. So we've got to find a technique that takes in everything, including the mirrors, including what's happening behind. That's very important, especially when you're looking for an overtake. You need to know that nobody else is looking for that overtake. So, we use a technique called scanning. Scanning is a way of looking down the road that takes in the far distance, the mid-distance, the foreground, the sides and the rear to help you build up a picture of exactly what's happening 360 degrees around the bike at all times, and that allows you then to go on and make good solid riding plans. So how does it work? Well, scanning, the way I like to use this technique is to start in the far distance and work my way back. So I'm looking in the far distance at that green sort of farm vehicle that's going away from us. We could just see briefly then with a yellow flashing light on it. That's giving me an indication as to where the road's going. But at all times I'm not just looking at the road that I can see in front of me, I'm looking beyond that. I'm looking at the lay of the land, I'm looking at the way that the hedgerows and the fences are laid out. I'm looking at, you know, side hedgerows like this that come in and indicate where there might be a driveway, looking at road signs to tell me what's coming up, getting the cross view here through the Cheshire railings towards Pooley Bridge. The far distance is literally everything that you can see that's relevant. Look at that car and caravan moving from left to right there. It's not on our road, but it's coming up to a junction down at the bottom, and it could pull out. There it is. and it's a mini roundabout that we're coming up to. So yeah, the technique that I use is to start in the far distance and work your way back. So we're taking the far distance, the mid distance, the foreground, the sides and the rear. And the rear on a bike is going to be a mirror check, and whenever we're going to change our position or our speed, it's going to be a shoulder check as well. Apparently red lights don't count if you're driving a green tractor. These people are out there, remember. They're not out there to deliberately get you, but if you're not careful, they will get you. Okay, so if you want a visual metaphor for scanning, the one I use is to imagine a single piece of a tank track or a caterpillar track on something like an earth mover or a JCB or something like that. So imagine a single link. It's like a big chain, isn't it, that goes around the wheels and back, and it starts by moving across the top of the track right to the front of the vehicle, and then as the vehicle drives over it, it works its way to the back and then very quickly goes to the front again. That is how I want you to carry out your observations. This is Ullswater, by the way. Oh, beautiful today, isn't it? So that's the technique I want you to use. Start in the far distance, work your way back, finish off with the mirrors and shoulder check if you need it, and then back to the far distance again, because by the time you've done that little routine, we've moved forward a distance, and your view in the distance has changed. So we start in the far distance again and work our way back. So I'm going to put that into practice for you now. I'm going to talk you through where I'm looking down the road. Now, one of the traps that a lot of people fall into, drivers and riders, is they'll come up behind a slow moving vehicle like this and then they just follow it. And by follow it, I don't just mean follow it with the vehicle, I mean they follow it with their eyes. They just stare at the back of it, looking for when the brake lights come on, reacting to what the vehicle in front does, and not really looking any further in front than that vehicle that they're following. The problem there is there's no guarantees that that person's got it right. We've just seen that lady drive up onto the pavement unnecessarily, and we've just seen the green tractor go through a red traffic light. There's no saying that just by following this vehicle and watching it that they've got it right. So what I want you to do is continue scanning in the far distance while you're following a vehicle like this, and at the same time you can move the bike around to look for a better view. I'll go for the overtake here. Because if you're looking in front, you'll spot those overtaking opportunities nice and early. So back to observations. Let's start. As we go over the crest of this hill now, I'm going to extend my view into the far distance. So here's the crest of the hill. Looks like the road's going round to the left. So down to the bottom of the hill there. Looks again like the road's bending round to the left. So as it does that, I'm going to look left across the corner. I might pick something up. There's a reflection. So that's where the road's going. On approach to this corner, I'm going to position myself up to the centre line, again to extend my view. In the mid-distance, I can see there isn't really much that's hazardous to us, and behind us is the vehicle that we overtook. Down here, I'm going to ease off the gas and take a little bit of brakes, because there is a junction on the right, some buildings, and a limited view there. So we're not going to rush into there and create an extra risk. Now we can see a couple of signs: road bending to the right and slippery road surface. So as we come around this right hand, I'm going to go back to extending my view into the far distance again. The road's bending round to the left, can't see much further than that. Driveway's to the right, nothing behind. In the distance now, the road's dropping away and going round to the right. So I'm going to position near side to extend my view. The entrance on the right, scanning into that, and a few buildings up ahead and nothing behind. And back in the far distance, the road's bending round to the right. Got a building to the left, could be an entrance there. Nothing behind. Road's bending to the right in the distance. The junction to the near side, nothing behind. There's a view mirror on the left there, indicating there might be a difficult view out of a junction. And I saw some brake lights in the far distance as I was talking about that. So I know we're catching up with a slow moving vehicle, and it's gone round to the right. Now positioning out towards the centre line to extend our view into this left-hander. As we come around this left-hander, extend your view into the distance. 2 vehicles, and the road's bending round to the right. So I'm going to position near side to extend my view. The entrance on the right, scanning into that, and a few buildings up ahead and nothing behind. Back in the far distance, the road's bending round to the left. So is it a cyclist or a pedestrian here? So I'm checking the mirrors, moving out, giving them plenty of room. There's nothing coming the other way. Back to the near side, scanning into these junctions to the left and right. More brake lights from the vehicles in front. We're catching up with them. As we come round this right-hander, extend my view into the distance. I'm looking past these vehicles. There's a car on site. There's a sort of built-up area coming up. I'm associating that with a possibility of a drop in speed limit. Don't see anything at the moment. And I'm just going to maintain a following position now on these vehicles. So, a little example of how we put those observations into practice, and the sort of things as well that are going on in my mind. I've sort of inadvertently moved on to the planning stage as well in some of those little commentaries there, but that's not a bad thing, because that's the next thing we're going to move on to. So that's the routine I want you to follow: far distance, mid distance, foreground, sides and rear, scanning. Imagine that tank track moving forwards and then working its way back, but don't ignore what's happening in front of you as well. Don't just solely concentrate on what's happening in the far distance. So planning then, what's that all about? Well, while we are riding along, we should be making riding plans. And those plans are based on three things: what you can see, what you can't see, and what you can reasonably expect to happen. Now again, that sounds fairly simple, doesn't it? And I mentioned in a previous video, this stuff is fairly simple. It's straightforward. It's designed to be straightforward and simple, because that's what we want when we're making decisions in a fast-moving environment like this. Well, I mentioned in the introduction video to this series of videos that what I want to do is try and give you the opportunity to work out what's going to happen before it happens. That's what planning does for you. So if we start from a platform of really good long forward observations, we can make those plans nice and early, and we can avoid that situation where we get caught by surprise, because those are the situations that develop into accidents or conflict with other road users or whatever. So the three things: what we can see, that's pretty obvious, and I've just talked about that. I've just talked about how to improve that and how to see as much as you possibly can in the distance. But the second element that we use to make riding plans is what we can't see. Well, that, you know, how do we define that? What can we not see? There's lots of things I can't see from here. I can't see what's around the next corner. I can't see what's on the other side of that wall. I can't see what's happening behind that Ford on the offside there. But remember, the third element is what can we reasonably expect to happen. Those two things are really closely linked. What can we see, what can we not see, and what can we reasonably expect to happen? This is where your experience and your knowledge comes in. I can't see what's beyond that crest in the road down there, but I'm not going out for the overtake because I can reasonably expect there to be something coming the other way. If I'm going to go out in the overtake on any of these vehicles, I want to be certain I'm not going to come into contact or conflict with anything coming the other way. So I'm not going to take the risk of overtaking towards a crest or a rise in the road that takes away my view. I can see that there are a number of parking areas adjacent to the road here. A lot of people come canoeing and paddleboarding and things in Ullswater, especially the van in front. That's the vehicle I'm thinking of here. Could be making his way to one of these car parks, so I'm expecting that vehicle to possibly turn off somewhere down here, or suddenly see a parking space and suddenly brake and pull over, because that's what people do. So I can see the parking areas, I can see the area, I can see people out there paddleboarding, I see the van. Can't see what's in the back of the van, but I can reasonably expect that to happen. Doesn't mean it will happen, but it's a reasonable expectation in my mind. Up ahead I can see a bus stops on the offside with its indicator on. So a bus, I'm linking that with people getting off the bus, and I'm linking that with the possibility that they could step into the road. What you can see, what you can't see any people at the moment, but I can reasonably expect that to happen. And there goes the van, exactly as we predicted, into a car park, off to do the paddleboarding and mountain biking or whatever it is they're here to do. So is that magic? Have I got a crystal ball? Have I seen into the future? No. I've just made a riding plan based on what I can see, what I can't see, and what I can reasonably expect to happen. Now, I have made a longer video about observations and planning on the bike, and a couple of others in the car as well, which is entirely relevant. We're still looking at the same things in the car as you are on the bike. I've put the link in the description below, so please go and have a look at those videos. But the principle is fairly straightforward. Look out there, taking as much information as you possibly can, use it to make a plan, and then put that plan into action. Here there's a car park on the right. I can expect people possibly to be crossing the road or waiting to cross, stepping into the road from behind bushes. There's somebody waiting to cross, people on the shore of the lake. Getting a cross view here, look through there. There's a group of walkers in the field. They might step into the road by the time we get there. One other thing I want to mention is road signs. The more experienced you get as a driver or a rider, the more road signs blend into the background and get ignored. Now, especially in the UK, we have really good, strong policies and guidelines around where road signs should be placed. There is always a relevance to official road signs in this country. We should also pay attention to unofficial road signs: slow, children, farm vehicles, lambs in the road. Somebody's made the effort to put those signs out, so pay attention to them. But yeah, road signs like this one here: pedestrians in the road, and falling or fallen rocks for 250 yards, and double bends first to the right. There's your pedestrians in the road. Perfect. Signs tell the truth. There's your rock face. It's not so much I'm bothered about a rock falling on me, but there might be one in the road, so I'm looking out for that. So when you're doing this scanning, look out for those road signs. They do pop out, you know, they're painted with a bright red border, so that especially in rural areas like this, they stand out. Double yellow lines are telling me something here. This doesn't look like somewhere where you'd want to park, but actually, you know, they must have had bad parking problems here with people trying to make their way down to the lake. Changing speed limit there as we come into Glenridding to a 30 limit. If you start spotting those road signs early, you'll spot the changes in speed limit earlier. And if you spot those changes in speed limit earlier, you are much less likely to break it and get caught, get points on your licence. It's really important that we're disciplined around speed limits, especially in these built up areas. And improving your observations and looking in the distance will help you to do that. So up ahead now, some cyclists coming around the bend. I can see a view mirror on the offside, pedestrian crossing the road. The next one with the dog might do the same. I can see another cyclist through there with the yellow helmet on, some pedestrians on the near side. So I'm easing off the gas, looking into that mirror, making sure nobody's stepping into the road. So we've been applying these principles on national speed limit road, and we've been applying it through the towns and villages, 30 and 40 mile an hour speed limits. These areas where the speed limits are lower, they are more hazard rich. There's more things going on that we might need to deal with. Just bear that in mind. And your scanning gets a little bit shorter when the speeds are lower. When your speeds pick up, and I'm talking especially now to police officers undertaking a standard or an advanced bike test, when the speeds pick up, get into 3 figures, it's really, really important that you're looking as far ahead as you possibly can. Remember, if you double your speed, you quadruple your braking distance. It's going to take you 4 times as long to stop if you double your speed. That's why it's so important that we look in the far distance and work our way back. So, what are the different organisations looking for from your observations and planning? Well, remember this: the examiners can't look through your eyes, but it'll be pretty obvious to us whether you're making good riding plans. Planning is probably the most essential element of an advanced riding test. And it'll be obvious to me within the first 2 minutes whether you are making riding plans or not. If you're not making plans, you arrive at things too quick, you brake late, you make your decisions late, the ride is stilted and rough. But if you're making good long observations and early plans, the ride will be smooth. It'll be obvious to me that you're making those riding plans. It'll be obvious that you're not getting caught out by surprise by anything, and the ride will look well controlled and nice and smooth. So for IAM Road Smart or ROSPA, if you want to get a pass, IAM, or a silver or a bronze at ROSPA, then you need to demonstrate that your observations are good, that you're picking up on things early, that fairly consistently you're making solid riding plans. The odd mistake here and there isn't a massive problem, but they're looking for you to increase your consistency, that you're not getting caught out by surprise very often. If you want a better pass, i.e. a more ROSPA, i.e. you want a first or a gold, then your observations and your planning need to be much more consistent. They need to be really solid observations, really good riding plans, consistently putting those plans into practice as you're going along, and it'll be obvious to your examiner, but it's the consistency that they're looking for. They're looking for you to be, you know, arriving at things with your speed correct, putting those plans into place. For the police, same again really, it's the consistency. They're just looking for you to be applying those principles at all times, and for it to be obvious that you're A, looking in the right place, seeing things nice and early, and B, reacting to that and dealing with it. But what I said about high speed, you are going to be riding at very high speed on those police advanced courses. And remember what the good application of the system of bike control gives you. It gives you time to react, it gives you time to deal with things, even if you are travelling at those high speeds. And all of that starts with good observations and good planning. So as a little extra treat at the end of this video, let's take you over Kirkstone Pass with a bit of commentary. Before I do that, I'd just like to ask you to, if you haven't already, just subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up. It helps the channel develop on YouTube. And go and have a look at the website as well, reglocal.com. Loads more information there about advanced and performance driving and riding, information about the books that I've written, and about how you can get a day's driver or rider coaching with me if you fancy a ride out or a drive out on some of these roads. So we're just heading up towards the Kirkstone Pass now. Let's give you a little bit of a commentary run over here just for 5 minutes. Looks like the mini club's out today. Big up to the mini club. Right, up ahead there looks like a pub or a restaurant on the right hand side, and an indication from the sign that the road narrows from both sides. Looking through and getting a cross view, you can see the road in the distance just disappearing off. There is a white car just gone around a left-hander. So an approach to that left-hander, I'm not going to position too far to the offside because there might be something coming the other way, but just position in a way that gives me a good long extended view. And again, just towards the centre line here, I'm just going down one gear for a bit more flexibility through this twisty section. And then if I extend my view into the distance, look at the pass in the distance going all the way up that valley between those two mountains, or hillsides. So I can see it twisted off left, right, left, right, left, right. And in the meantime I am looking to pick out the vehicles that I'm catching up with, and already thinking about looking for the opportunity to overtake this white Fiesta who's going quite slowly. So I'm going to roll into a following position. Look in your mirrors please people before you start braking unnecessarily. So eyes up to the top of the hill now. See it twisting away in front of us. Conscious I don't want to cross offside too many times here because there's a lot of dead ground on this road. Here we can. Just straighten that one up. And now we're falling into a following position. Rolling into a following position on this little black box or whatever it is. And I'm looking for the opportunity to overtake. Just coming off this crest now. Let's see what opportunities there are. Down to second gear. There's an opportunity there. Just for one. And then once this white car's gone past, I'm not sure, that opportunity isn't really on there. We've just lost the view now going into it. Keep checking the mirrors. Very important we look behind when we're planning an overtake. Lower gear ready if an opportunity presents, but we've got some vehicles towards us here. 3 or 4 and an indication of a steep ascent, 13%. So I'm thinking about an opportunity off this right-hander. Yeah, this is looking good now. I'll take a little bit off this right-hander here just to smooth it out. and this one, and extending our view into the distance now. The road's going left. And round to the right, so I'm extending my view now. Using the limit point to assess these corners means we don't get caught out by a corner that's too tight or that is tightening on us. Ahead it's going round to the right, and that limit point is static, so I'm positioning into the near side. Now getting some movement in the limit point, and we're rolling on the gas, keeping the bike balanced through the corner. So there you go, that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Little run up the Kirkstone Pass there, up at the top. Look at the view down there towards Windermere at the bottom. That's lovely, isn't it? Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. And we'll see you next time.